Welcome to The Catch Up, a podcast from the Daily Catch where we take you inside the news. My name is Walter Mullin, and I'm the publisher of the Daily Catch.
And I'm Emily Sachar, the editor of the Daily Catch.
In this show, we discuss stories that have appeared in the Daily Catch. We give you insights into how we put the stories together, offer additional observations, and discuss where the stories may be heading as we move forward. The Catch Up is sponsored by Hutton Brickyards on the Hudson in Kingston. At Hutton Brickyards, every season brings a new way to dine. Edgewood Restaurant and Bar is now open for the season, offering refined fall and winter dining inside the beautifully restored Edgewood mansion, and a delicious Sunday brunch that's not to be missed. For hours, menus, and reservations, visit huttonbrickyards.com. Edgewood Restaurant and Bar, part of the Hutton Brickyards experience, 132 Lindsley Avenue in Kingston. Emily, are you ready to catch up?
Let's do it, Walter.
So today, Emily has generously passed the microphone over to me, and it's my pleasure to interview Claire Greenburger, our reporter. Claire, welcome to the studio.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
So, Claire, the Daily Catch set out earlier in this school year to understand the topic of artificial intelligence in our school. Artificial intelligence seems to be on everyone's mind. It's really in the forefront of conversations right now. What were some of the questions on your mind as you worked on this project?
Sure. So when I started reporting this project, I really wanted to understand how AI was actually showing up in schools, how students are using tools like ChatGPT, and how teachers and administrators are shaping policy around it. A big part of my interest came from realizing that students now have access to these tools that can, in seconds, completely generate essays and assignments like lab reports and problem sets, and they are just an arm's reach away. So it's understandably tempting for kids, and it creates a real challenge for teachers, especially as students begin to question the value of certain assignments they are doing when there are now these tools that can just do that work for them. But pretty quickly, I realized that it isn't as simple as kids using AI to plagiarize their homework. That's part of the picture for sure, but there's this much larger gray area around what counts as cheating, what might be a legitimate learning tool, and where the boundaries should be. And then at the same time, there's this whole wave of AI products designed specifically for educators, these tutoring platforms, grading tools, lesson planning software. And I wanted to understand how schools are deciding whether or not to adopt them. So my core questions meant to guide my reporting became, what are teachers, parents, and students most worried about when it comes to AI? Where do they see potential benefits? And do school leaders think AI can genuinely support learning, or are they worried that it could erode, the very skills like critical thinking and writing that these assignments have always been meant to build?
Fantastic questions. Let's start with the topic of parents. Do we know much about how parents feel and what their engagement has been with the school districts around artificial intelligence?
Yeah, we do. And like with most new technology, there's definitely a mix of reactions from parents. What stood out to me, though, is that unlike cell phones or social media, a lot of parents still don't really know what AI is or what it's capable of, or even whether or not their own kids are using it. It's so new that parents are essentially learning about it at the same time as their children. In Red Hook, at the end of the summer, administrators held a presentation for families to walk through how AI might show up in classrooms this school year. And parents had a lot of questions and expressed a variety of concerns. Some worried about AI resulting in their kids spending even more time in front of screens and losing face-to-face interaction time, which is something that's already been a major concern since the pandemic. Others were focused on academic integrity, as I mentioned earlier, and on AI potentially undermining the value of schoolwork if students start to rely on it too heavily. Mental health came up too in some of my conversations. Parents are aware of the risks of AI being used for cyberbullying and to spread misinformation, and they're already anxious about how their kids navigate social media, and AI just introduces a whole new layer to that. There have been national news stories recently about chatbots giving harmful advice on topics like self-harm or serious illness. That's something that my most recent feature in the Daily Catch didn't get into, but it's a serious concern and one that is on parents' minds. And then there's just the practical side. So some parents also said they're not sure whether they should be using more parental controls or monitoring tools on their kids' laptops. So it's just a confusing time to be a parent, and a lot of families are really looking to the schools for guidance on how to handle all of this.
Boy, so many issues. I have not sat in a classroom for many years, but I'm trying to imagine what it would be like to be a student and have access to AI. I'm also trying to imagine what it would be like to be a teacher and have to confront how to incorporate AI. So talk about top line. What were some of your significant findings from the field?
Yeah, one of my big takeaways from reporting is that both Red Hook and Rhinebeck see real potential in AI, especially in its ability to generate highly individualized content for students. At the same time, they're very aware of the risks, so they're trying to walk this line between preserving the skills schools have always valued, things like critical thinking, writing, and perseverance, and acknowledging that AI is already shaping the world students are growing up in, and they can't just pretend it isn't there. And what that means in practice is that both districts are still very much in the experimentation phase. They're being cautious, but they're also starting to think about how to teach students to use AI thoughtfully and ethically, not as a shortcut, but as something that can actually support their learning if it's used well.
So they're worried, understandably, but they also see potential. Let's drill down into what Red Hook and Rhinebeck are doing differently. And I'm fascinated by something called Khanmigo. Little hard to pronounce, but Khanmigo. So if you could also just kind of talk in very basic terms about what Khanmigo is, and I believe that's being used in the Red Hook district.
Yeah, so Red Hook is really leaning in and experimenting. They're piloting this tutoring tool called Khanmigo from Khan Academy that acts as a chatbot tutor for students, not simply doing the work for them, but rather helping guide them and offering support in the way that a good human tutor would. And how this program works, it is meant to act more like a coach, as I mentioned, rather than a shortcut. So if it's late one night, it's 11 p.m., and a student hasn't started their history essay, and they type into the chatbot, write me a paper on the Civil War, Khanmigo won't do it. Instead, it pushes them to think, what do you already know? What's interesting to you? How would you explain that? Administrators told me that they like that guardrail, that if a student is stuck late at night, at least they have somewhere to turn that won't just hand them an answer. So this year, teachers in Red Hook are also working on uploading their own curriculum materials, so Khanmigo can give support that lines up with exactly what's being taught in class. Because say you're teaching division, for example, there's a lot of different methods you could teach. You want Khanmigo to be teaching the students things that are in line with what the teacher is already teaching.
So the school districts customize Khanmigo based on what they want to present to the students.
Exactly. And that's what they're starting to do this year and this fall for the first time.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And the district is also trying out some other tools like Magic School AI, which allows teachers to create their own chatbots for specific lessons or assignments. So say a biology bot that helps students review a specific concept before a test. And I also heard from district leaders that some teachers are using AI more behind the scenes for lesson planning and rubric design and building presentations, things like that. Hook is also trying to engage with their students very directly around AI use and its risks. At the start of the school year, Principal Roddy spoke to the entire student body about the dangers of over-relying on AI and how it can affect cognitive development. Because ultimately, it's on the student to self-regulate. There's only so much that these school districts can really do to stop them from using AI. And then later in the school year, they're planning to form a principal-student AI council at the high school where students will meet monthly with administrators to share feedback about what's working with programs like Khanmigo, what's not, and what they'd like to see next. And then as for policy, neither Red Hook nor Rhinebeck has a formal set of AI rules yet. Most cases still fall under existing plagiarism rules that forbid students from presenting work as their own if it isn't. But Red Hook leaders have said that in practice, it's just really tough to regulate. There are so many programs that even if they block one, like ChatGPT from school computers or from the school Wi-Fi, students find a different program or some workaround to accessing it. So the focus has shifted to trying to get the students on board and bought in through education.
So Red Hook, as you say, is leaning in very deliberately, which is interesting. What is happening in the Rhinebeck School District?
Yeah, so Rhinebeck is taking a slower, more reflective approach, and they really haven't had quite the level of program rollout that Red Hook has started to do. Over the summer, administrators held a 2-day retreat where they drafted an AI vision statement, which is basically a framework for how the district wants to use AI in ways that support learning and promote equity. Leaders there say they're still very much in learning mode. They haven't banned AI, but they also haven't actively been promoting it. And unlike Red Hook, ChatGPT is actually blocked on the school Wi-Fi there for now. So some teachers are starting to experiment a little bit. Like I heard from a few teachers that they started to use this chatbot program that impersonates historical figures so that students can interview them through this chatbot. But they have run into some accuracy issues with that program, which just reinforces why districts are being cautious in the first place. The next step in Rhinebeck will just be finalizing that district-wide AI vision statement and figuring out how that will translate to practices at the classroom level.
One point that comes out loud and clear in your story, Claire, is that AI is not going away. So the school districts have a responsibility to teach students how to use it responsibly, which I think is very smart, right? You can't put your head in the sand and just hope AI isn't there. And when these students go on to college and then go on out into the workforce, AI is going to be a tool. So they have to understand how to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I heard from both districts is that AI is moving much faster than schools can realistically keep up with. But students are growing up in this world where AI is going to be everywhere. So schools do feel a responsibility to help them build good judgment around it and to adapt their curriculum and policies as thoughtfully as quickly as they can. But obviously, it is a huge challenge that they are up against.
What specifically will other school districts be doing next? What can we, watch for?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in Red Hook, the focus now is on personalizing the Khanmigo classrooms, training students to use it responsibly, and then launching that new student AI council. And then in Rhinebeck, the next step is taking their draft vision statement and turning it into actual practice, setting clear expectations for students, offering staff training, and continuing to build administrators' own understanding of the technology.
So Claire will be continuing to follow the discussions around AI in our communities. And meanwhile, Walter, I wanted to let you know that a lot of our readers have been asking how they can help support the area food pantries as we head into Thanksgiving. And I know you have some news in that area to share as well.
Exactly. So I live out in Mullin, and just this week, a new food pantry, I guess you'd call it a food pantry, opened at Route 199 and Academy Hill Road. It's called the Giving Shed. It's open every day, dawn till dusk, and it's at the location of the Bay Horse Gazebos store, which many people may know. Bay Horse Gazebos is a very prominent location right on 199 and Academy Hill Road. They sell sheds and garages and gazebos. So they've taken one of their sheds and they've turned it into an all-day food pantry, but it's being called the Giving Shed. So feel free to learn more about that. You can stop by and visit them. I'm sure they would welcome donations there. And if anyone is in need in the Mullin area, they can also go there to get food.
And meanwhile, I'd love Claire, who coincidentally has been covering the issues around food insecurity in the Hudson Valley for the last month or so, to give us some updates on what people locally can do to help at other food pantries. Claire, can you share some information with us?
Yeah. So as a quick update on SNAP, even though the government has reopened and SNAP benefits are now funded through next September, the uncertainty of the shutdown and all the legal battles around the Trump administration SNAP policies have already created strain for local families, and our food pantries have been feeling it. The pantries I spoke with said that demand has jumped noticeably this month, and as Thanksgiving approaches, they're really looking for community support. And there are several ways listeners can help. I've heard from a few different pantries in the area. So in Red Hook, the St. Vincent de Paul pantry at St. Christopher's Church, they're accepting food, gift cards, hygiene items, and baby supplies. And those donations can be dropped off during parish office hours from 9:30 to 4 at the school office at 30 Benner Road. And also at the Red Hook United Methodist Church food pantry, they're taking donations of personal care items, also canned meats and frozen turkeys, which are especially needed right now, as well as other things. And those non-perishables can be left in the bin by the Church Street Nursery School anytime, or perishables can be dropped off Thursdays from 2 to 4 or Sundays from 11 to 1. And then in Rhinebeck, Rhinebeck's Jane Brooks Food Pantry, which is a full choice pantry where families can shop for themselves. They welcome non-perishable, self-stable donations. So the best time to drop those off would be during church office hours from 9:30 to 1:30. And then lastly, the Rhinebeck Reformed Church is also asking for anything Thanksgiving. So turkeys, pumpkins, cranberry sauce, gravy, etc. The best time to drop anything off there would be Tuesdays from 9:30 to 12. And you can look at all of the food pantries websites for more details and information about what they're looking for. There are also a number of other pantries and organizations that I didn't mention that are worth looking into. And then for anyone who prefers to give financially, donating directly to the regional food bank is one of the most impactful options, since they can buy food in bulk at a far lower cost than any of us can at the grocery store. And if people want to volunteer, the food bank is also hosting a large Thanksgiving distribution event at Dutchess Community College on November 22nd, and they're still looking for extra hands. So whether it's donating food, giving funds, or offering time, there are plenty of meaningful ways for listeners to support local families this Thanksgiving.
So, Claire, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you will have a very happy Thanksgiving. And we look forward to having you back on the show very soon. Emily, we are starting to cover the town of Clinton, which we have not been covering up until now. Let's talk about why we made this decision and what it's going to mean for readers and also for listeners of the show.
Yeah. So, as I'm sure our listeners are aware, and our readers surely too, a very interesting project has been developing in the town of Clinton that also touches the town of Hyde Park, called Six Senses. It's a retreat, a sort of a yoga retreat / some say conference center, others disagree, facility on about 136 acres in Clinton. And by covering that story, we've been really looking at the impact of this development on Rhinebeck. Rhinebeck has sued to try to stop it. Others in the Rhinebeck area support the project. But since it's in Clinton, there has been a great deal of interest in the Daily Catch bringing our special magic, as it were, to that town. And we were very fortunate during this fundraising season to find a donor who stepped forward and asked if they could help fund a pilot project to see if there was actually an audience and interest in covering the town of Clinton. So we accepted graciously and gratefully that donation, and we've decided to put a pilot together that just launched. For the next 3 months, we will be covering the town of Clinton in the same way that we cover the towns of Red Hook and Rhinebeck, which is to say, we will be at the planning board meetings, we will be at the town board meetings, we will be at zoning board meetings when those are in the news. We will look for features to cover, we will cover politics, we will cover everything that we normally cover in Rhinebeck and Red Hook.
So if anyone's listening to the podcast who lives in the town of Clinton, what can they do to get more information or to sign up for a particular newsletter?
Great. So we have a once weekly newsletter. It's going to go out on Wednesday evenings at 7 o'clock. And the reason for that is so that we can capture the events of meetings that happen on Tuesday nights. Most of the meetings in the town of Clinton happen on Mondays or Tuesdays. So we'll hold those stories to make sure they can hit that Wednesday newsletter. People who are not currently subscribers to the Daily Catch can go to our homepage on either mobile or laptop or desktop. And on the top right-hand side of the dailycatch.org, they can register for an account. When they register for an account, there are options to sign up for a whole medley of newsletters, one of which is the Clinton newsletter. And then they will start to get the same newsletters that they sign up for in the coming days and weeks.
Wonderful. So we look forward to welcoming our new Clinton readers and listeners.
Yes, we're very excited. And if they have ideas of stories we should cover or comments, they can always reach out to me at emily@thedailycatch.org. My name is spelled Emily, and they can expect a response from me. And of course, as we do throughout this season, November and December, we welcome donations from anybody who wants to support the work that we do at the Daily Catch.
This concludes our episode of The Catch-Up. We hope you enjoyed listening. If you like our broadcast, please be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite platform, and you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. A big thank you, as always, to Matty Rosenberg and Jen Hammoud at Radio Free Rhinecilff for their help producing today's show, and thank you to Esther Martell for her help with editing. And as always, a very special thanks to our sponsor, Edgewood Restaurant and Bar at Hutton Brickyards, where every season brings a new way to dine on the Hudson. Edgewood is now open for the season. For menus and reservations, visit huttonbrickyards.com. Emily, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Thanks, Walter. Same to you.